There we go. This morning's meditation will be unguided, and I just wanted to remind you of something with regard to your meditation practice that I know you already know. Um, your job in this meditation on the inner body, your job is to simply observe sensations and allow whatever arises through that practice, through that observing. Your job is to allow whatever arises through your observing to arise of its own accord. It can be tempting for us to try to guide our meditation or our experience in a certain direction. For example, typically when I guide this meditation, I'll say something like, it may be that the sensations in your hands and your feet begin to travel up into your arms and your legs, perhaps into your face and cheeks and so forth. It may be that the sensations remain in your hands and your feet. Either way, that's perfectly fine. Um, it can be tempting, I know, to be sitting and observing and observing. And it's like, well, maybe there would be more benefit if the sensations traveled. So I'm going to kind of direct them up into other parts of our body. And it's totally understandable. A better approach would be to let those sensations travel kind of where they are, because for us to try to direct or influence an outcome kind of subtly points toward expectations that we might have about a practice, about the results of our practice. So your job is just to simply observe. That's all that's asked of you. And the wisdom of your subtle mind, or blessings or grace, whatever you want to call it, will inform what happens in conjunction with your simply observing. So, a little bit of a reminder before we start our practice. Again, it will be unguided, and I will see you all in 15 minutes. please gently allow your consciousness to become less absorbed as you begin to arise from meditation. We dedicate all of the merit from this morning's meditation and Dharma talk to world peace. May all beings without exception be completely and permanently free from all forms of emotional and physical suffering. May all beings without exception be happy, peaceful, contented, and free. Completely fill up your belly and lungs with air, and when you're ready, you can open your eyes and bring your meditation to an end. Thank you, and welcome back. So we have a guest teacher this morning. For part of the remainder of our time, Alan Watts is going to give us a teaching. It's, of course, a video recording of Alan Watts. I always delight in how special Dharma teachings, whether it's a book or a video or a flesh and bones teacher, finds me, rather than me going out and deliberately searching. And somebody passed along this short YouTube video of a talk given by Alan Watts. So I thought I'd share that with you. It's short, just 6 minutes, and we can talk a little bit about it afterwards. So here we go. Hopefully I can get the technology right here. Okay, I think can you guys still hear me? Yeah, Steve, can you see the screen? Can you see the Alan Watts? Okay, good. Here we go.
Now then, what has happened here is that by being aware of being aware, being able to represent what goes on fundamentally in terms of a system of symbols, such as words, such as numbers, you put, as it were, two lives together at once, one representing the other. The symbols representing the reality, the money representing the wealth. And if you don't realize that the symbol is really secondary, it doesn't have the same value. People go to the supermarket and they get a whole cartload of goodies and they drive it through, and then the clerk fixes up the counter and this long tape comes out. And you say, $30, please. And everybody feels depressed because they give away $30 worth of paper, but they got a cartload of goodies. They don't think about that. They think they just lost $30. But you got the real wealth in the cart. All you parted with was the paper. Because the paper in our system becomes more valuable than the wealth. It represents power, potentiality, whereas the wealth, think, oh, well, that's just necessary. You got to eat. Well, I mean, that's to be really mixed up. So then, if you awaken from this illusion and you understand that black implies white, self implies other, life implies death, or shall I say, death implies life, you can feel yourself, not as a stranger in the world, not as something here on probation, not as something that has arrived here by fluke, but you can begin to feel your own existence as absolutely fundamental. What you are basically, deep, deep down, far, far in, is simply the fabric and structure of existence itself. As if you play life on the supposition that you're a helpless little puppet that got involved, or if you play it on the supposition that it's a frightful, serious risk and that we really ought to do something about it and so on, it's a drag. There's no point in going on living unless we make the assumption that the situation of life is optimal. That really and truly we are all in the state of total bliss and delight. But we are going to pretend we aren't just for kicks. You play non-bliss in order to be able to experience bliss. And you can go as far out as non-bliss as you want to go. And when you wake up, it'll be great. You know, you can slam yourself on the head with a hammer because it's so nice when you stop. And it makes you realize, you see, how great things are when you forget that that's the way it is. And that's just like black and white. You don't know black unless you know white. You don't know white unless you know black. This is simply fundamental. So then, here's the drama. My metaphysics, let me be perfectly frank with you, are that there is the central self. You can call it God, you can call it anything you like. And it's all of us. It's playing all the parts of all beings whatsoever, everywhere and anywhere. And it's playing the game of hide and seek with itself. It gets lost, it gets involved in the farthest out adventures. But in the end, it always wakes up and comes back to itself. And when you're ready to wake up, you're going to wake up. And if you're not ready, you're going to stay pretending that you're just a little, poor little me. And since you're all here and engaged in this sort of inquiry and listening to this sort of lecture, I assume that you're all on the process of waking up. Or else you're teasing yourselves with some kind of flirtation with waking up, which you're not serious about. But I assume maybe you are, not serious but sincere, that you are ready to wake up.
So much there. I'll make a mental note of everyone who was on this call, this Zoom, and send you a link to it if you want to watch it again or share it with others. You know, Alan Watts covered a lot in that video. He started with kind of mental constructs being pointers. They point toward the thing, but they're not the thing itself. You know, I can point up toward the moon, and what really matters, what's important, isn't my finger pointing that way. It's the moon itself. The finger pointing is just a prop, and so it is with labels and definitions and really anything conceptual. But for me personally, what really moved me and provided an aha moment had to do with his talking about black and white. We need black to experience white and vice versa. We need, I think he said, non-bliss to experience bliss. And, you know, throughout a lot of my spiritual life, I resisted that notion. we need to experience suffering in order to experience bliss or to experience peace. We need to experience, we need the moments of suffering to experience the moments of peace. And kind of being a sort of Western optimist, I always resisted that notion. I was like, why do we need these moments of suffering to experience the non-suffering, to experience the joy? I just couldn't accept it. I wanted to find another way and just basically rejected that. And what I learned really through this video, what came through for me is that I was making a mistake. I was employing dualistic view, the view of separateness. I was thinking, okay, I have a moment of suffering or an experience of suffering, and then I will move from that to a moment of joy or an experience of joy. And then the experience of joy will cease. I'll go back to the experience of suffering. And it was sort of like this jumping back and forth, so I thought. And, the answer had been staring me in the face all along. It's yes, the experience of suffering are needed in order to in order to have the experiences of joy, but they're not separate. They're not separate from one another. They support one another simultaneously. And it's a subtle notion, as it is with non-dualistic view. Yes, we need one to enable the other, but they're not separate as they are enabling one another. They are occurring simultaneously. And it's not a going back and forth. It's a oneness that is taking place. And that in turn will give rise to an equanimity with regard to our experiences of suffering and non-suffering, joy and non-joy. They're taking place simultaneously in a non-dualistic way. And that kind of thinking otherwise, that jumping back and forth between the two, and okay, I'm having this experience of joy, but at some point the experience of suffering is going to come back. And then, when I'm in the experience of suffering, okay, now I'm waiting for the experience of joy. No, just abiding in the two simultaneously in a non-dualistic way. That's how it works. And there's freedom from that recognition and equanimity that arises from that. So anyways, I hope that's beneficial. My takeaway from the Alan Watts video, back to non-duality, same as it ever was. Have a great weekend, you guys. We got Medicine Buddha meditation tomorrow morning at 9. I hope you can make it. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome.